What up, everybody? YouTube Live. Holy smokes. What is this? 3 3:15 in the morning AM? Wow. What up, everybody? YouTube Live. Holy. All right. It is so, what is it? Late at night, early in the morning, whatever you want to call it. The last time I stayed awake this late, I was watching the World Cup, I think. But that was a few years ago. Uh, yes, welcome to my live stream review of Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2, new episodes 8 and 9 that I had just finished watching, and I'm sure many of you had already finished watching as well. Um, that was a hell of a conclusion. Holy crap. Wow. That was epic. There's no other there's no other word or no other adjective to describe it. That was a couple of epic episodes. It's By the way, this review is for those of you who have already seen those episodes. So it's spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, this video contains spoilers. So if you don't want to, hear any spoilers, you might want to look away and then come back later when you've watched the episode to get my thoughts on this. But man, let me just start by saying that once it hit midnight, um, and I'm sure many of you that was waiting for the show to start, Netflix crashed. Once it hit midnight, Netflix just boom, it could not work for at least maybe, I want to say 15 seconds. Uh, and I was assuming, and I think a lot of people were assuming that it was because everybody was trying to log on to their Netflix account at the same time, and and Netflix just like couldn't take all the you know the bandwidth, whatever you want to call it, and it crashed. And but after a few seconds, it's like everybody that was trending on Twitter was like Netflix crashed, Netflix crashed, Netflix went down. But after a few seconds, um, 10 to 15 seconds, if you will, it went back on, and I was like, oh, thank God, we could finally see or watch Netflix Stranger Things season 4, volume 2. So that was crazy. That was crazy when Netflix crashed for a few seconds. I knew coming in that this was gonna be like a 3 to 4 hours total kind of runtime, because that's they've been announcing it for quite a while that the first, oh, I'm sorry, episode 8 was about an hour and a half plus kind of long, and then episode 9 was about 2 hours 20 minutes. So total wise, about 3.5 hours to 4 hours total, if you will, give or take. Um, so I prepared like spicy food. Here you go, sriracha. I prepared chocolate because I read that chocolate keeps you awake, and of course I got my caffeine. Um, so yeah, that was. But still, it was a struggle just to stay awake because I'm close to 40 years old now. As you get older, it gets harder and harder to, when you're younger, it's easier, much easier if you want to party all night till the morning, which I did in my 20s. But now that I'm close to my 40, it's not easy, guys. And those of you who are as old as me can attest to that. But yeah, let's get right to it. Let's talk about episode 8. All right. Oh, you know what? Let me give you a bird's eye view. I told you that it was epic, right? Both episodes were epic. Uh, and I love how, because I think a lot of people complain about the whole separation. You know how the character storylines are separate. They're all like, Will, Jonathan, and Mike are on their own, and then of course Max and the Nancy and Steve and everybody on their own separate journey, and then of course 11 was with Dr. Brenner in the first half. A lot of people complain like, "Oh man, I wish they were just together, man. Why do you got to separate all these guys? They're not good separate. They're better together. Some people think that way, and that's fine. That's their opinion. But as I mentioned in my previous review, it's like that is the kind of like the most common formula for any follow up or for any sequel, to kind of separate the groups. One example that you can think of was Star Trek Beyond in 2016. You know, when the Enterprise crashed and everybody like separate or part ways or split up in groups of two. So that's just a common thing. And but I love how on the final two episodes tonight, um, they all kind of, even though they're still separate, location wise, each group, that they connect somehow, because of the fact that the upside down upside down has an impact even all the way to Soviet Union. Um, but in the case of 11, she reached out to the rest of them through her mind, of course, because of her powers. And I love that. I love that. I love how you don't have to be in the same room or the same town. And the Duffer brothers, in their infinite wisdom and creativity, found a way to like connect all these characters somehow, and it worked really really well in my opinion. I loved it. So that's bird's eye view. But let's get to episode 8. Okay, so I got some notes here. Okay, so it starts off with Nancy, right? Nancy was caught in the dreamscape or nightmarescape, whatever you want to call it. And we thought that Nancy was going to be the next victim, you know, and eventually it turns out she's not, Vecna's victim. Vecna just wanted Nancy to deliver a message to 11. And, but at one point, when the rest of the gang were trying to rescue Nancy, they were like very hectic. It's like they were like throwing the everything to from the kitchen sink, like, oh my god, well, get a music on, because the music rescued Max, right? So I was like, oh, we gotta rescue Nancy. What's her music? But that's the question though. What was Nancy's favorite music? Nobody knew. Um, and at one point, I think Robin was just throwing names like Madonna and Cyndi Lauper and all these, and then of course, and Eddie answered like, I guess Robin's like, this is not music, and he's like, no, these are music, which is a very quick, brief joke there, saying that one man's trash is another man's treasure, if you will. One person may think Madonna's not that great or that music's crappy, but the other person's like, no, Madonna is music. That's music. So that was funny, but unfortunately, we never came to know what was Nancy's favorite music. Just like we knew Mac's music in the previous half, that Mac's favorite music is Katie Bush, "Running Up That Hill," but we never know what's Nancy's favorite music. So unfortunately, that remains a mystery. But am I glad that Nancy's not Vecna's victim? Yeah, yeah, I'm glad. I love Nancy. She's one of my favorite characters, and as you may have seen, at the end of episode 9, she has her hero moments, and it's fantastic. She's holding that, half-sawed shotgun, and she's just so badass. I love Nancy. So, I posted a poll on Twitter to you guys, and the response is pretty interesting because I asked you guys which Stranger Things character would end up dead in these episodes 8 and 9. I asked you guys which ones will die or would get killed off at the end of Volume 2. And let's get to that real quick. Let's get to that. Because it received pretty interesting result. Let's see, Twitter. Is it Twitter? I think it's Twitter, yeah. I posted it on Twitter. Let's see if you guys got it right. Oh man, I think my internet's kind of jocked here. Nope, there it is. Okay, profile. So I only gave, because Twitter only allows 4 options. So I put in, I think I put in Max Mayfield, one of them. I put in Nancy Wheeler for another one, And then I put in Murray Bauman, the bearded guy, the comic relief. I thought he might be a possibility to get killed off. And then the fourth one is Eddie Munson, and let's see here. It's not rolling. I don't know why it's not. It's not rolling. Oh, look at that! How slow is my internet? Really, it's insane. Okay, here it is. Which Stranger Things character do you think will get killed off at the end of season 4, volume 2? So I put in Nancy Wheeler, Max Mayfield, Murray Bauman, Eddie Munson. And of course, you guys can fill in, your other choices in there. But look at that, 105 votes, and 42.9% of you guys said Eddie Munson. 22.9% of you guys say Murray Bauman. 20% Max Mayfield, and 14.3% of you guys predicted Nancy Wheeler was gonna die. But here's the thing, um, you gotta admit, on episodes 8 and 9, especially episode 9, there were moments when you thought that, or I thought, or we thought that any one of them, any of these guys, could have died, right? There was a moment when Nancy and Steve and Robin were like all strangled up by those vines, and of course Max Mayfield had that moment with Lucas, and Murray, of course, with Hopper and Demogorgon, and Eddie Munson with the bats. So it was one of those moments like, oh my God, any one of them could die. Like any of them could. This could be their moment right here. So it's all, of course, at the hand of the Duffer brothers to decide which which ones will get killed. And voila, you guys predicted. A lot of you guys predicted correctly that Eddie Munson was gonna die, um, and he did. And what do I think about that? Um, I kind of knew that Eddie Munson was gonna get killed off. He seemed like the the plausible choice, if you will, uh, to have a heroic death. But the thing is, you know, it would have been more impactful. All right, not to take away from Eddie Munson's death, but it would have been more impactful if it had been one of the other characters that had been with us from the previous seasons. You know what I'm saying? Because we have been following these other characters from seasons 1, 2, and 3. Eddie Munson's a new character from this season. So yeah, we're sad that Eddie's no longer with us, but it would not have been as sad as, or it's not as sad as if Mike dies or Will dies. You know what I'm saying? Because we've journeyed with those guys from the beginning, whereas Eddie, we've only journeyed with him from this season. You see what I'm getting at? So yeah, it's sad, but it's not as sad. It's not as impactful if it had been the other characters that have been on the show since the beginning, if you will. But yeah, Eddie Munson has a very heroic death, and I think he really, really felt bad. Not I think, we know that he felt really, really bad about Chrissy. He wanted to redeem himself. He felt that he was a coward when Chrissy died in his trailer. Like it's like, so at the time of his death, he told Dustin, it's like, hey, look, I didn't run away. I fought back. There's a certain pride you could tell, like when he said that to Dustin, it's like, oh my God, I've redeemed myself. So that's a good thing. That's a cool thing. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Back to episode 8. Okay, so I have a little few more on my notes before we get to episode 9. Um, so let's talk about Will real quick, because the question that a lot of people had in the previous half of this season 4 is like, does Will have a crush on Mike? Is Will gay for Mike? Because it seemed like maybe Will has feelings for Mike. Maybe Will is jealous of Al, because of Al's relationship with Mike, and Mike's been gone all this time, and he came back. It's like, oh, because I told you guys in my previous review that maybe it's not necessarily feeling gay for Mike. Maybe he just feels abandoned, because sometimes that happens. When my BFF, when my best friend goes away for a long time and comes back, I was like, the dynamic's not the same anymore, as we previously had. So it could have been that way. But no, I think judging from episode 8, when Will told that story about his drawing to Mike, about how Mike is the heart of the team. Yeah, I think I'm more sure now of the possibility that Will does have feelings for Mike. I wasn't sure of it in the previous half. All right, in the first 6 episodes of season 4 or the volume 1, I wasn't sure. I was trying to think of like other possible theories that may be there for Will and Mike. But after tonight, after episode 8, after that whole drawing and the heart thing, and Will like crying at the window, I was like, wow, yeah, this dude really has something for Mike. And it's I think here's my thought on that. I As much as we want the Duffer Brothers to sort of explore Will's sexuality, you know, maybe there's a reason why they're just going as far as they could with it, because of the era that the story is set in. The era that the story takes place. Um, and not only that, it's much more impactful if it's something that's unrequited, all right, or something that's not meant to be. You feel more for the guy when it's unrequited, when it's not meant to be, when it's like, oh, I gotta repress it, as opposed to actually going down that path or going actually like, oh my, this is what I feel for you. You know what I'm saying? So it makes more sense, uh, and it's wise that the Duffer Brothers chose that direction for Will. Um, and as we saw at the end of episode 9, Will definitely still has, because Will did have it in the previous seasons. Will still has the uh, the senses, if you will, that something bad is about to happen. So that's kind of Will, if you will, superpower. It's, he's not 11, obviously. He's not charging into battle doing telekinetic stuff, but Will still has that. What's the word I'm looking for here? Hunch, if you will. But so yeah, I got a theory that in the season 5, which is gonna be the final season, Will's gonna play an even bigger role on that aspect, because obviously Vecna is still alive. Vecna is not yet dead. So that's gonna, I mean, that sucks. But at the same time, I think we are due for an even bigger battle than what we saw in episode 9 between 11 and Vecna, and I can't wait for that bigger battle. So, by the way, speaking of Vecna, let's get on to that. Vecna is even scarier in this season, man. I mean, in these 2 episodes, man. Holy crap! And I love how I don't know if I mentioned to you this before in the previous half, in the first 6 episodes. I'm sorry, for 7 episodes. I'm for 7 episodes. Um, I mentioned to you guys that Vecna is kind of like Freddy Krueger, and the whole dreamscapes thing, is a lot like Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, but I also loved how in the first 7 episodes they played it. The Duffer Brothers played it like the Westworld. If you've seen Westworld series, it messes with the time frame. It messes with the timeline. You think you see a young man, entering this cowboy theme park, and then the next thing you know, it's like, oh my god! Apparently, that's the past, and the young man is actually, older William, older, the man in black. So that's what that's how it was played in the previous or the first 7 episodes. I was like, okay, you think that 11 and 1 are in the same timeline with Dr. Brenner, like in the present day? But then, bam, the twist at the end is like, oh my God, turns out that that's what happened in the past, and 1 becomes Vecna. And so everything's all in Eleven's mind when she's in that water tank. So it's very Westworld kind of esque, and I loved it. I love when it's like so cerebral and it kind of messes with your head. But that's just, that's how it was in the first 7 episodes. Um, Quick side note: Warzone, the hunting store that they bought all that stuff, including the shotgun. That reminds me of a lot of hunting stores in the East Coast, including Cabela's. So if you've been to Pennsylvania, like I have, there's a store called Cabela's, which is everywhere, and they sell like guns of all kinds for hunting and for other purposes. And I remember entering a war zone kind of a store or Cabela's in Pennsylvania, and I went to the cashier. I was like checking out some of the weapons there, and the cashier's like, "Oh, which ones you're interested in?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just looking. I'm not an expert or anything like that. I've just been to the range once my whole life." And he asked me, "He's like, oh, where are you from? You're visiting?" Like, "Yeah, from California." And he said, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." He's like started laughing, like, because he knew that California has the strictest or one of the strictest gun laws in the country. So, but Warzone reminds me of that kind of place, Cabela's. That's pretty cool. Another side note: Robin has a crush on this one girl who shows up again on episode 9. And I don't know about you, but she kind of reminds me of Molly Ringwald. She looks like Molly Ringwald when she was younger, in Breakfast Clubs, 16 Candles. I don't know if that's intentional or that's on the Duffer Brothers' part that they cast somebody that looks like younger Molly Ringwald. Maybe that's intentional. I'm thinking, it's a kind of like a throwback or like to honor the 80s again, because everything's about 80s, honoring the 80s. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Now we don't know if that's true or not. I'm theorizing, I'm speculating, but she looks just like a younger Molly Ringwald, and it's amazing. It's awesome. Okay, so episode 8, in totality, we see the relationship of, or the dynamics between 11 and Papa, Dr. Brenner, reaches a boiling point of 11 deciding whether she still wants to be associated with Papa, with Brenner. And by the end of episode 8, Papa went crazy. Papa went cray cray. And it's just, by that point, I think Papa became a villain, at least for me. When 11 said, "You're the monster," we can argue about that, maybe not necessarily a monster, because being a human as ambitious as Papa is a human thing. Everybody goes through that, but definitely a bad guy, a villain, like trying to control somebody, and to the point where, like, I'm not gonna let you leave. I decide when you get to leave, and so that becomes a prison for 11. And but it looks like Dr. Brenner or Papa does not die at the end, so we don't know how he's gonna come back in season 5. But my God, that helicopter scene, woo, that was incredible. That was, I want to see like a behind the scenes featurette on that. Um, I mean, I'm sure it takes quite a setup for such explosives, man. But that looks movie style. That looks like freaking Tom Cruise cinematic style. Like something you'd see in a Mission Impossible movie. That was really really incredible, and I'm glad 11 got her powers back, because it was epic when she moved that water tank, I believe, all the way upward. I was like, oh my god, there's so many wow moments in episode 8, and this and that and the helicopter are among them. And it's just like, oh, and up to that point, uh, I gotta be honest with you. Up to that point, the whole Argyle, Will, Jonathan, and Mike storyline were kind of the weakest. Their journey was kind of the weakest of all the separate journeys that's happening. Because like you keep wondering, like, where are they going with this? And when they finally connect to 11, I'm like, I feel relief. It's like, oh, thank God, because for the longest time I felt like they're being neglected, or they're like the storyline that the Duffer Brothers did not pay much attention to compared to the others. It's like, and so I was like, come on, where are they going? Like, how are they going to connect? It's like, oh, finally connect to 11. Good, good. So now they have a much more significant purpose than just following Dustin's girlfriend's longitude and latitude. Um, but yeah, that helicopter, man, that was amazing. It's like, oh, they were shooting at her, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna get you down. Yes. Very, very fantastic action sequence. I loved it very much. And lastly, before we get to episode 9, I just also want to say that, real quick, Argyle, the guy with the long hair that's been hanging out with Jonathan, Will, and Mike, damn, the guy is surprisingly resourceful. I'm going to be honest with you, and I think it's obvious when you see the reactions of Mike, Jonathan, and Will. There are times when Argyle seem very irritating, very annoying. Um, he's like the comic relief that can get on your nerve, you know. Sure, he's funny at times, but a lot of times he's also very like you just want to tell him to just shut up. Like, why do you gotta talk too much, man? Like, smoke your weed and shut up. But I love how the scripts give him many, many, well, not many, but several opportunities when he can show the rest of the gang that, hey, you know what? I'm more than just a pothead. I'm actually resourceful. You can rely on me. You can depend on me on some of these stuff. And so I think it's cool. So he becomes like sort of like an unlikely hero, if you will. And I think the actor's name is Eduardo Franco. I've interviewed him once. Fantastic guy. Go watch my interview with the guy who plays Argyle on Rama Screen YouTube channel. But yeah, Argyle is surprisingly resourceful, including episode 9 when he's like, yes, you want like 600 pounds of salt? I'll get you 600 pounds of salt. That ain't no problem. You trust me or not? Come follow me. I'll show you where to get that salt. So yeah, that's pretty much the totality of my thoughts on episode 8. So let's get to episode 9. All right. Um, a little bit also borrowing from episode 8 regarding Jim Hopper and Joyce and Yuri and the other guy. How do I feel about that storyline? It's cool. It's really cool. You know what? A lot of people thought that the whole Hopper in the Soviet Gulag storyline in the first 7 episodes were the weakest part of season 4. I would have to disagree. I think the whole bridge over River Kwai / prison break thing, which is exciting. And especially when they started battling Demogorgon, it's like, yes, that's awesome. And in these episodes 8 and 9, when they finally broke out, right, all the way out from the prison, um, it just kind of warms your heart seeing Joyce and Jim in the same room, and they were so close to having sex. But here's the deal, guys. There were so many, again, with many, I would have to say just, what's the word I'm looking for here? There were several, let's just go several instead of many. There were several romantic moments in these final two episodes that got interrupted. All right, remember? So it's not just Jim Hopper and Joyce, but also Nancy and Steve. Nancy and Steve, they were in the woods and they're having a heart to heart talk. You know, the woods upside down, and they're almost kissing, bro. They almost kiss, and guess what? Robin interrupted. All right, the same with Jim Hopper and Joyce. It's like, oh my God, it's getting hot and heavy. It's getting heated. But then the phone rang. It got interrupted. There's another case as well. I forgot which one the other ones. But yeah, it's sort of like a blue ball tease going on there throughout these episodes 8 and 9 with regards to the romantic prospects of some of our beloved characters, and that's fine. It's it's that the whole tease thing. I mean, we get it. We get it. It's not a TVMA show. It's a TV whatever, TV PG-13, whatever you call it. So we get it. It's all fun and dandy. It's all Goonies sort of a fun. So it's pretty cool. But yeah. Nancy's plan with regards to trying to kill Vecna, phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four, however many phase that was. It was to me, in my opinion, that plan was too simplistic, and it made a lot of assumptions. It assumed that. Let's get back to the picture here. I mean, I get it. You have Eddie and Dustin kind of distract the bats. And you have Erica and Lucas, doing their thing. Lucas with Max, of course, and but it assumes that the other variables in the upside down will be constant. What I'm saying? They will not be bothering them as much. They didn't anticipate the vines to bother them. They didn't anticipate the fact that that Vecna is unpredictable. um, so it was very simplistic. But again, as I mentioned earlier, Nancy is one of my favorite characters, and so gotta give her credit where gotta give credit where credit is due. And that girl has balls, dude. I'm not as ballsy as Nancy. So as simplistic as her plan is or was, um, mad props for her to even like come up with that plan. You know what I'm saying? Because when she suggested like, oh my God, we gotta get back. We gotta get back to the upside down. The rest of them were like, dude, we barely survived the first time around. But so she wanted to go back to kill off Vecna, and so despite the fact that her plan was simplistic and made a lot of assumptions, it was just ballsy on her part for even thinking about it or concocting the plan in the first place. So, um, if in the previous half or the first 7 episodes, it made Katie Bush's classic song "Running Up That Hill" even more famous than it already was. It made it. The song got a re-emergence of popularity because of Stranger Things Volume 1. Um, in Volume 2, it was Master of Puppets, Metallica's famous album, which which was from the 1986, which I believe is the year that the story is set in. Now, I don't know if Master of Puppets, because of Volume 2, Master of Puppets will get a re-emergence of popularity, just like Katie Bush running up that hill. We'll have to wait and see the next 24 hours if Master of Puppets will become the most popular thing on Spotify because of Volume 2. Just like Katie Bush, we'll see. We'll have to see. I don't know. I don't know. In the previous season, season three, it was the never ending story song. Remember? Everyone's like, "Oh my god, the never ending story song!" Even people who never actually saw the movie Never Ending Stories like started singing Never Ending Story song, because of Stranger Things. So Katie Bush got repopular again. We don't know if that's the same effect will happen to Master of Puppets. I hope so because Metallica is one of my favorite bands. But seeing Eddie Munson on top of that trailer rocking that guitar, is like, oh my god, that's badass. Obviously, you can tell that Eddie or the actor who plays Eddie wasn't really the one playing those those chords. You got to do close up on the chords, and he's like, oh, okay. You could tell that when they cut to the guitar bars, like it's got to be somebody else's fingers on that. But still, he sold it. He made it look very convincing, and so God bless Eddie. Um, Jason interrupts Lucas with Max while Max is in the an upside down mind realm with 11. Man, Jason is such an asshole, dude. I gotta say that dude who's still hung up on the whole Chrissy's death thing, and I get it. I get it. Grief, sorrow can make you do crazy things. And I think it really consumed Jason to the point where he couldn't see straight. You know, he couldn't see reason and logic anymore when people tell him like, "Dude, that's not what happened. That's not the truth. This is the truth." He just doesn't want to accept it anymore. Because he's so deep in his sorrow and grief and anger and frustration that he just wants to lash out. He wants somebody to pay for it. And so when he's pointing that gun at Lucas, I was just, whoo! I thought he was gonna pull that trigger, bro. But I gotta be honest with you, Lucas can't fight for shit. Oh my god! Come on, Lucas. How did it take you forever just to beat up Jason? And yeah, Jason's like so creative too. He takes any item around her. I'm sorry, around him, and then throw it at Lucas. Lucas is like, but I'm glad Lucas finally wins, of course. But that fight seems like it went on forever. It's like, dude, come on already, just beat him already. But yeah, Jason's an asshole. I'm glad Jason dies, and in the most excruciating way too. When the upside down kind of cracks into the real world or Hawkins, and Jason's body is lying in the middle. It's like, oh, got burnt in half. It's like, oh, that's what you get, punk. Serves you right. Freaking Jason. Um, that whole thing with 11, the battle of 11 versus Vecna. Oh, so amazing. 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 Because, of course, 11 got the upper hand at first. When 11 pulls Vecna away from Max in that gym, and then when they got to upside down, um, Vecna kind of turned the table on 11. Got the upper hand on her, and then Mike says, "Fight, fight, fight, fight." It was the whole sequence was such an emotional journey. It's like, oh my, you really feel for 11. It's one of those because because it's one of those moments, like I said earlier, when our heroes or our protagonists seem like they're losing the battle, like they're like any of them could die at any moment, you know, and then, bam, that's when they finally turn the table. That's when the Duffer Brothers, it's like, okay, we've pushed it to the limit as far as we can. Now let's make them heroes again. And it was very, very emotional. That's right, B Dog 51, very emotional. And yeah, I think I loved how it went out or how it played out. Um, Even if we kind of saw it coming in a way, what I'm saying? We knew that 11 was going to win. We didn't know exactly how until we saw it. But still, the way it played out was very, very visceral, um, gripping, and again, emotionally powerful. Like you really invested in that moment of 11 finally beating Vecna. And, of course, 11 got help because on the other side, Nancy, Robin, and Steve were throwing Molotov bottles at Vecna. And Nancy being the badass that she is, like, poof, with the shotgun. So, yes, 11 is sort of the superhero, but she's not alone in that whole moment. It was a teamwork effort. And Lucas also, so everybody was like pitching in. And it's so really well written. Nobody's neglected in that moment, that hero moment, if you will. So it's pretty, really cool. And yeah, as you guys mentioned in the chat room, yeah, Eddie dies. I already said that earlier. We already discussed it, and you can see the poll here that I mentioned that I posted on Twitter. A lot of you guys said Eddie Munson was gonna die, and you guys were correct. Eddie Munson dies, and again, the rest of sounding like a broken record. Um, yes, we love Eddie, and we're sad that Eddie dies, but it would have been more impactful had the death been one of the other characters that have been with the show from the previous seasons, from the beginning, because we've followed their journey, or we've been with them, throughout the previous seasons. Eddie, we only got to know him in this season. He's kind of a new character. Yeah, we feel sad about him, but it's not like, Eddie was in the season 1 or season 2, season 3. You know what I'm saying? So I think Billy's death in season 3 was a lot more impactful because Billy was around longer, or was around before season 3. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that Eddie's death is emotional. Eddie's death is sad, and as I mentioned before, he redeemed himself because he feels like he failed Chrissy. You know what I'm saying? He felt, and then he ran away from the trailer when Chrissy died on his ceiling. So he felt like, God damn it, I'm a coward. So he had that guilt with him all this time, and so when he decided to, like, you know what, I'm not gonna run away anymore. I'm gonna buy you guys some time. I'm gonna fight these bats with my with my custom weapon and my bicycle. It just, I mean, that's amazing. The Duffer Brothers could not have written a more heroic death than that. Um, if I were Eddie, would I have been that brave? No, I don't think I would have been that brave. I think if I were Eddie, I would have like climbed up that bed sheet and just I was like, get me out of here. But I'm not Eddie Munson, am I? I can't even I can't even play Master of Puppets on my guitar. So Eddie's a great character, definitely. We're gonna miss him. R.I.P. Eddie, and the guy who plays Eddie did a fantastic job with that role. Um, so finally, before I log off, because season 5 is gonna be the final season, and Vecna's still alive. And now, as you saw at the end of episode 9, Upside Down World kind of cracked into Hawkins now. It's like the divide or the wall between Hawkins and the Upside Down are no more. And Hawkins looks like a freaking, like, damn, it looks like, have you been to Hawaii, guys? The Hawaii, the big island, the volcano part? It kind of looks like that now. There's like lava everywhere. It's like fire coming out of the land. It looks like a freaking, Hawaii, big island Hawaii when it's like erupting. That's what it looks like. And it's crazy. And Will senses like something's coming up. And I'm scared, man. I'm scared for Hawaii. I'm scared for Hawkins. I'm scared for 11 and the rest of the gang. I don't know how they're gonna face Vecna with all this, with the fact that now it's out in the open, right? The secret about the Upside Downs, everybody knows now, because of the cracks, because of the fire. It's all visible. It's not noticeable. I don't know how season 5 is gonna do it, bro. But I'm glad that in these episodes 8 and 9, the Duffer Brothers managed to insert or inject a lot of emotionally powerful moments, including the last one when Jim Hopper reunites with Eleven. That was just like it gets you right here in the heart. I was like, oh my god, oh, you know, even throughout the chaos, even in the middle of the uncertainty, even in the middle of like Armageddon or the end of the world on the horizons, there's still like there's those pockets of moments of like hope and love and courage and reunion, and just like it makes you tear up and you cry. It's like, oh man, and feeling hopeful a little bit because yes, we don't know what's going to happen in season 5, but at least 11 is still around. At least Jim Hopper is still around. At least the guys or the kids who are willing to fight back or to push back and to fight Vecna, they're still around. They're still around. Will, Jonathan, and the rest of the gang, and they're making a stand at the end. Like when they're seeing their Hawkins kind of like deteriorate, they're like, you could tell also that they're very determined to like face whatever's gonna happen in season 5. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Oh, I can't believe we're gonna be saying goodbye to Stranger Things after season 5. It's gonna be it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be sad when this show ends, definitely. But yeah, but tonight episodes 8 and 9 were amazing. They were epic. They were spectacular, and I love that we're all staying up till like 4 a.m. watching this shit. It's such a good show, such an eventful show. I love it. I love it. All right, that's all. That's all I have about the spoiler thoughts that I have about season 4, volume 2. Thank you so much for chatting in, Alexi and Harry Baker, the B Dog 51, and Payush. For those of you who didn't get to chat with me right now, let me know your thoughts. If you've seen episodes 8 and 9 or volume 2, what did you think of it? What did you think about Eddie dying, and what did you think about the conclusion? How it ended, and also what are your theories? What are your speculations about season 5? What do you think is going to happen in the final season with the next battle that's coming up? All right. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's rock this.